What's good, YouTube? It's Jay here. Today we've got another episode of the Modcast podcast featuring myself, Z3R0X, RISSIEN, and ARVIS from Republic of War. Just like the other episode that we already did, we're just going to be kind of talking about some stuff, life, Empire War, gaming, and whatever else just kind of pops up in the conversation. We're going to kind of try to keep these podcasts to maybe like 45 minutes to an hour. I want to say just to kind of keep them within that reasonable time. It's 9 p.m. Eastern where we are currently right now. And, it's kind of late. I don't want to keep everybody up super late tonight. It's a Monday. So, yeah, fellas, how are we doing, everybody?
I'm doing great, accounted for.
Not too bad.
That's good. So, I mean, so you guys are coming back into the Empire War space, bringing back Republic at War, one of the most obviously famed mods of all time. We talked about it a little bit in the last episode with Corey, Jerome, and Z3R0X, or Z3R0X. I'm sorry, it's not Z3R0X, it's Z3R0X. My apologies.
I had to get a giant icon just so you would know that.
My apologies. I forgot you're not a copy machine.
I was wondering what that was all about.
It's Z3R0X. My apologies. So
there you go.
How does it kind of feel? Arvis and RISSIEN, were you guys kind of AFK from the community too when you decided to come back into like the space, or were you already like doing stuff like kind of behind the scenes? Because I actually have no idea what you guys have been up to like for a while.
RISSIEN, you go first.
I haven't been too much a part of it. I was more moderator staff and beta testing back when Republic of War was coming, and a couple other mods. And sometime after Z left, I pretty much kind of dropped off the face of the earth myself, and I just mostly followed the mods passively until one day came back. Hey, what's going on?
So for pretty much long, it's just been kind of just away from things until Z kind of popped back in. Did he reach out to you, or how did that kind of like happen?
No, I got one of the notifications because I still follow most of the mods. I
Gotcha.
saw the notification for Republic of War and ModDB. I saw these posts, so I immediately that was Republic of War is one of the few Discords I actually wasn't still in. So I joined that and I made a post, and then he messaged me.
Oh well, hey, happy to have you back, man.
Yeah.
Are you excited to be back? I know, like I said, you told me earlier you just got off of work, so I'm sure you're probably tired. But are you excited to kind of be back in the swing of things with everything? Like
It'll be a nice change of pace. Get back into it again. Maybe learn more and maybe actually do something in the future.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, like I said, happy to have you back, Arvis. Your time to shine. Like, how does it? What have you been up to?
So, I mean, I have to say, like, I've been kind of like in and out of it for the longest time. I'm active duty military, so like sometimes I go from having all the time in the world to having absolutely no time at all whatsoever. Like, I never really left the community entirely. Like, I've kept in touch with like people like Jerome and Carrick and like some other folks, and like we've occasionally like worked on like a thing here, a thing there. So I've never really been like gone, but I've also like not stayed attached to anything just because of like the time commitment that's required. So it's like, hey, I'll poke in, I made a thing here, bye, like sort of like tossing stuff in here and there when I can, and then being like, send me a message if you need me, but I don't know if I'll be around much.
So what part of the military are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm active duty Navy.
Nice. Okay, I have a lot of family that was in the Navy way back in the day. You too?
I was back in the day.
Okay, we got a lot of military guys right here. Z, were you? I can't remember. Were you ever in the military? I think we talked about it, but I don't know.
No.
Okay. So you and me are the two couch potatoes. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's and the odd thing is that I come from a family of military, so, and I mean like everybody. My dad's ex-Navy. My both grandfathers, served. All of my uncles did as well. So, and then there's me.
Hey, your life turned out good, right?
Yeah, that's the it just, that wasn't my thing. Like that wasn't my calling. But all the respect in the world for those, the guys that do it now and the guys that did it then. And you know, somebody's got to do it, you know, and I'm glad that we have the military that we have. And so Arvis, I've probably thanked you before, but I'll thank you again. Thank you for defending our shores. Against,
proud to serve.
Against the Cubans and any other, and against the British and pirates and everybody.
Holy God.
I'm just, I have to comment, Jay. Arvis is being like kind of like low key, but he is one of the oldest artists that's still around. He's been, I mean, I've known this dude forever, right? I mean,
I originally came onto the scene in 2002.
Yeah.
Good Lord, man.
Oh yeah, he's been around since, I mean, longer than, I mean, he was active before Warb Null was, and him and Warb did a lot of work, but the difference was, I mean, you know, Warb was like releasing lots of free release stuff, whereas Arvis was, you know, if he did put something out, it was very here and there, but it was extremely well done. And I'm not saying that Warb's stuff wasn't well done, I'm just saying that Arvis's stuff was much more designed for specific things instead of like mass consumption.
Right.
And so,
like, he had a dedicated art style for every kind of thing he was approaching. Yeah.
Exactly. And I know that EJ's style was one of the ones that Arvis kind of like learned and like tried to like mimic or match, you know.
Oh yeah, I actually got EJ to teach me his texturing style, because like it was one that like people liked so much from his stuff in Warlords. So like as he went through upgrading his stuff, I was like, hey, like can you just show me like the settings you're using and everything to like get your stuff to look like that, because we were both doing all of our textures in Photoshop. And he was like, yeah, sure. So like he literally like gave me a setting, showed me how to do all of this stuff, and then I started making like my own patterns and stuff, and I was like, so yeah, I can now replicate something that looks exactly like EJ made it, except he didn't, I did.
So
and then I kind of like took off from there.
So you know, Arvis was always like posting pictures of his work, right? I mean, and this goes back to like the old file front days, right?
Right.
You know, I kind of like befriended Arvis like via the forums, right? Like we would message each other like on the web, like on the website, like using old forums messaging, which is like.
And this is 2002, early.
No, this would have been after the game.
This is after the game came out.
Okay.
Yeah, I originally started modding in Freelancer. Like that was where I got my start in modding, which came out in 2002.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually have no idea what that is.
I got my start in modding in Medal of Honor Allied Assault, and that also came out in 2002. Actually, 2001, and then came out in 2002. And I also started modding Return to Castle Wolfenstein. You know, both very active first-person shooters back then. But Arvis and I started messaging each other via the old forums, like back and forth, and then we ended up chatting on like MSN and like whatever instant messenger there was at the time.
I think it was Yahoo Messenger at the time.
ICQ Yahoo Messenger. So
I think Arvis was with
AIM.
Yeah, AIM. I think Arvis was one of those dudes that had, remember those stupid multi-chat apps where like it combined Yahoo, MSN, and AIM into one thing?
Oh yeah.
Like, see, you guys are making me feel like I'm the youngest guy here, because
I think you are the youngest guy here.
Well, I probably am. I have no idea how old Arvis or RISSIEN are, but just hearing all this old technology, just like with the last episode, I'm completely foreign to all of this. I have never heard of a majority of these things, except for Yahoo. But
you know what? Honestly, man, because you missed out on some of that, people that like missed that whole era, I think, don't appreciate the technology we have now. Right? Like they're all impatient and everything. And meanwhile, I'm like, dude, I remember waiting days for things to download. Like I remember downloading programs and leaving the house and like checking the computer like 3 days later and it's still downloading.
Good Lord.
And that was not miss those days.
No, I know. Nobody does. But you came to appreciate, you know, I mean, some of this stuff, you just appreciate it. Now, funny story, Jay, about Arvis. And this just happened. For years, I was always under the impression, because I've never spoken to Arvis, like over the phone or like through voice.
Yep.
I actually thought Arvis was Norwegian.
Why?
Because his name, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but there were a lot of Norwegians around at the time, including Warb, right?
Makes sense.
And,
Okay.
You know, here's this dude, Arvis Taljik, with this Norwegian-sounding name. And I remember I just assumed, okay, the guy's Norwegian. Every message I've ever sent this guy has been in, like, slow English, essentially.
Slow English. So like you just tried to like kind of like take it nice and slow, just type out everything ever so gently just to make sure you understood it.
Absolutely, because I'm afraid, like, you know, English is not this guy's first language. And then, like, just like a few weeks ago, I'm talking to him, and we were talking about time zones for this podcast. And I go, listen, it's gonna be difficult to coordinate with you because of your time zone. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's like, I'm the same time zone as you. I'm like, aren't you in the EU? And he's like, no, I'm here. I'm like, oh, you moved here now? He goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, you moved from Norway? And he's like, dude, I'm in the fucking military. I'm like, you're in the Norwegian military. That's great.
You just keep dragging it out.
He's like, no, man, I'm American. Dude, my jaw was on the floor. Like, I could not believe. I've known this dude, like, 15 years, right?
You never bothered to ask him, are you Norwegian?
I just always assumed, and I'm starting to think that Arvis may have thought I had mild brain damage because I was
You've known him for 15 years, and it never crossed your mind, fuck, is he actually Norwegian or is he American? He speaks English pretty good.
I know, here I am talking to this guy like a certain Spaniard we all know and love, and this dude it's like probably like, what's this guy's problem?
He's just talking in very one-syllable
I just
words.
thought you were putting a lot of extra thought into what you were saying, so I wasn't gonna be like mean about it or anything or like point it out. I was just, but at the same time, like I would have like, I don't know, I would have hoped you would have realized I was speaking in like perfectly normal American English.
Jesus
but
Christ.
yeah, whatever, it's fine.
I just can't believe it
I
took
mean,
you 15 years, no questions asked. Like, huh? Okay.
Like,
but here, like, so in
there was
Zero's
an
defense,
incident one time,
like,
way back when Warb actually, I remember telling Warb, I'm like, dude, Arvis is one of your countrymen. And Warb spoke, we were in a group chat, and Warb said something to Arvis in Dutch. And I do remember Arvis going, what the hell is he talking Like, and I just like, didn't think anything of it. I just like, oh, you know, like, he's whatever. I just, like, you know, I mean, even Warb was like, oh, he's Dutch. And I'm like, yeah, man. And then now it's like, I don't remember how it happened. Like, I just remember, like it's not like he was out there, like, you know, like his profile picture was like a Norwegian flag or something. Like, I don't know.
He just read his name and thought, yeah, he's Norwegian, 100%.
I'm like, dude, another Norwegian along with Mike NL and Warbnall. Another Dutch dude.
RISSIEN, are you Norwegian?
No.
so
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in Zero's defense, like, I mean, I've spent a decent amount of time deployed overseas, so like I've been in like the time zones in Afghanistan and Iraq and Kuwait and Africa, so I can understand where some of the like, oh wait, no, like he's at like, you know, he's in like, you know, a time zone that would be over there. Yes, I've spent a lot of time in those time zones, but I'm not from there.
I mean, dude, Dutch used to have colonies in Africa. I mean, those territories.
Jesus Christ.
I don't, like,
he's not wrong.
All I know is that, like, for some whatever reason, and honestly, there may have been a time when I saw his IP address, you know, as admin of the server, and it was like some weird ISP, you know, and I'm like, oh, he's in Europe, you know.
It probably was.
You know, but you know, Z, I used to actually think you were German, and that's just because I didn't know anything about you. And like a majority of the Empire War modders back in the day were all European. So like when I saw your name Z3R0X, it was all like, you know, spelled how it is. And I never really saw you like comment anywhere. I just thought you were like some mythical European or something. So I mean, I get the confusion.
Yeah, you know, it's
and then you say you're in Ohio and you're like 20 minutes from where I live, so I'm like, oh, okay, so he's not European.
Oh no, dude, you were blown away too. You were like, get the fuck out. Like, you're seriously like down the road. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, he's literally like 20 minutes from where I live.
And RISSIEN, though, has been around also literally just as long as Arvis has. I mean, he's been around since the very, I mean, wait, you were like, yeah. he's
joined
been
the
around since
community
the
probably
inception.
about your 3.0 mod.
Oh, yeah. So that would have been 2007, right? And pretty early on, you know, he distinguished himself by being a pretty good, like, you know, a good all-around guy. I remember I installed him as like mod on the website. So he became a de facto community manager. I mean, you know, the other Corey was good at, you know, moderating the forums, like, you know, cleaning things up. But RISSIEN would actually like take part in like a lot of the lore conversations that would take place and kind of keep things on topic. And he was also like our resident shit poster.
One of the OG memers.
Oh, dude, he would just post like some of the most like shit post comment topics like on stuff. It was just always funny, just the randomness. So
I think I've toned down from that since.
yeah, I mean, he still does it in the Discord a little bit, which is funny, you know. But and some of the people, some of these youngsters just don't get his sense of humor. But yeah.
I mean, I remember you told me to calm down a couple times in the lore sections because like I get spun up on lore and I'm like, no, that's not right. You can't know that it's not how that works. And you know, it's like, hey, dude, like, take a second. I'm like, no, they're wrong.
Oh my God, everyone gets spun up on lore.
Oh boy.
Do you guys remember, and all you guys will remember this, except for Jay, who wasn't alive, but
Hey, man.
there was, do you guys remember the Open Circle Fleet discussion that like was like 900 pages long, and it turned into people calling each other Nazis, and like
Wait, what?
Yes. Yes,
That
I
was
remember
almost
that.
happening.
Someone proved
2 days
that
ago.
theory right.
Wait,
that, like,
can I get
that,
demonetized for that particular word out of curiosity? Like, is that something that YouTube hates?
No.
Even using a positive kind of, or not a positive, but you know,
someone actually accused someone of being like Hitler, and then that's when you know the conversation was over, right? It was like, okay, but this carried on for like weeks, right, of like horrible back and forth, because we were posting a lot of images of like the Venator cruisers, and all of them would have the open circle symbol on them, right? And I remember RISSIEN was doing beta testing at the time, and I think someone, either I don't remember, it was him or somebody, posted these images on the EEAW forums, and I remember like horrible discussion started taking place about how all the ships should not have that symbol, and then there were all these people arguing that they should, and then there were all these people saying that they shouldn't, and then there were like name calling and people saying all these horrible things, and it went on and on and on.
It went on for pages and pages and pages.
That sounds genuinely like the most Star Wars community thing you could probably think of, especially for like the early 2000s. Like easily, that sounds like something that happened back in the day. Because
I mean, what
people take their Star Wars serious, man.
Oh my God! And then like the concept, like even now, like in our own Discord, right? There are these like never-ending debates, right, about, and some of these are like philosophical things, like, you know, the juxtaposition and the, you know, analogy of the Death Star and what it is, right? Like, and some of this stuff is like, oh my God, I just keep thinking of that movie, you know, Revenge of the Nerds and Ogre Nerds. Like,
yeah.
and I'm a nerd, right? So, but you see some of this and you're like, okay, I'm not that bad, right? You know, I'm not that guy. Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like people sometimes forget, and like at the end of the day, this is all fictional, no matter how much you really love it. Like, I'm just about as passionate about the expanded universe as much as the next guy. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm not gonna like tell somebody they're a piece of shit because they like the Disney universe. Like, I don't like it at all for the most part, but I'm not gonna hate on anybody or, you know, like go to that extent. You know.
No, like one of the biggest problems that we have, right? And I think any mod team has this as well. You have people that have their own belief, especially about Star Wars, right?
Yep.
There are some very, very strong opinions right now about different camps, you know? Disney versus Lucas versus new stuff versus EU. And there are some very strong feelings about that.
Lots of division.
Yeah, lots of division. That
It was social division because of Star Wars.
You know, you can, I mean, there are some things in my mind that if there is nothing established in the lore or the whatever, all right, canon, okay, call it what you want, then that to me, like, it's open to our own interpretation and our own imaginations. But what frustrates me as a developer is you have people that don't want to utilize their own imaginations. They have to use some sort of established canon. And if it doesn't exist, then it can't exist, right?
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of get like that sometimes, depending on what it is. But I see your point.
I mean,
these are people that are like, no, this is the Holy Scriptures, and if you don't agree with this, I'm going to beat you over the head with it.
No, that's true.
Heresy.
Heresy.
Well,
that's fair.
Oh yeah, that you get some of that, right? I mean, but
Yeah.
my whole belief system on this is, look, if there is something out there, like to me, the movies trump everything, right? Like, it's just kind of like, hey, if we saw it in the movie and that's how it was, then that's how it was, right?
Yep, all 6 of them. Yep.
Right. So, look, I saw Yoda running around with a lightsaber and he was doing cute little flips and stuff, okay? And if somebody else came along and they were like, no, Yoda should never have a lightsaber, get a cane. It's like, okay, but I literally saw him with a lightsaber in the movie. So, I mean, I'm not going to go against that, right? Well,
Right.
so-and-so wrote a comic and it said he never had a lightsaber. It's like, okay, but the movie overrode that, So let's start with that. Now let's take the opposite of that. Let's say it was never on screen and there really hasn't been anything written about it, right? It's just out there. So we can kind of come up with the story as we want, right? That's kind of what the expanded universe was always about, was that these authors were just telling stories based on set in a universe that George Lucas created. So people now with Disney, though, as Disney came in and this new younger crop of people are filling in all of this, the game, all of it, some of that has been lost, and it's sad. Like, you used to get fan fiction and ARVIS and RISSIEN. I'm sure you guys remember all this. Remember all the fan fiction that people used to write back in the day?
I used to write.
You don't see it anymore. And you also don't see the fan movies that people were making. And some of them were really good. I mean, if not good as some of this Disney crap they're putting out.
Well, like, I think to a lot of it, and one thing I do want to switch over to a little bit is more like mod discussion and some stuff about Republic of War too. But one thing I think about the Disney, like the whole Disney situation, is like, yeah, the expanded universe was technically, I guess you could say, non-canon on paper. But I think the whole situation left such a sour taste in people's mouth, because you've basically got almost 40 years of established canon, non-canon material, basically. You've had countless books and games reference multiple characters back to back to back throughout all of these different series and stuff, and then just kind of strip it away. I think that just kind of sucked the life out of like the whole creative side of Star Wars. Like, it just kind of sucked the entire creative side out of Star Wars a little bit.
A lot of it, I think, was like, it was badly handled.
Yeah.
From start to finish. But at the same time, I really don't know how else they could have handled it.
Yeah.
Well, there is one way. They could have just said, you know what, we're gonna leave all the legacy stuff alone and just focus on new, right? Just let whatever was done before, it exists, and we're not gonna mess with it. We're not gonna change continuity or story, and we're just gonna basically start our own new stories and new eras. They could have done that. They should have done that. But instead, what they did was, what'd they do? They took beloved stories, and Jay, again, this is going back to a time when you weren't alive yet. All right, back in the 90s, back in the 90s, when some of us remember when there was no Star Wars, right? Like it was the dead time, the dark times, right?
The real dark time.
The real dark times. We only had like the books that were being put out by some of these authors, and the
original Rogue Squadron book series.
Exactly, right? So, I mean, to me, the Thrawn trilogy is the trilogy. That is the sequel trilogy. And if Disney wanted to do something, they should have done that. And if they weren't going to do that, they should have left it all alone and done a KOTOR movie or did something else.
Yeah, I would have tolerated the change a little bit more, to be perfectly honest, if we didn't just get like reset to square one. We've already done the tale of the Jedi Order is gone, everybody's dead, the Republic or the Rebellion or whatever are fighting an evil empire, and the last of the Jedi. If we didn't reset to that, I don't think I really would have been bothered by it. But since we went basically full circle again, and we didn't really get to see even Luke like be in his prime and happy with his own order. You know, it's just like, it just felt like kind of like, what's the point? We're just redoing literally what we've already seen, you know? Like when they said they were announcing a new trilogy, I wanted to see a Jedi Order. I wanted to see like a New Republic, you know? Not, we're in the same situation, like again.
I was convinced that we were going to see the whole Katana fleet story. I mean, I was actually convinced, like, Disney is going to finally give us what we've always wanted. And instead, we got the Death Star 3, essentially, and...
the Death Star was bigger.
All over again.
Yeah, and this...
Yeah, it was like, A New Hope, just bigger.
Right. And by the way, it starts, and I have no idea what's happening. I read the crawl, and I'm like, what is happening? What is going on? Where is the New Republic?
What's the new?
What's the
this?
First Order? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Why is it 40 years later and they're flying all the ships that are antiques?
Not even like fully upgraded either. Like it's like it's one thing if you go back into the expanded universe, you have multiple versions of like the X. I guess they use what they call the T-75 or something. I think that's what it was called. But in the expanded universe, you had like the XJ series and the Stealth X's and stuff that popped up from the Long War.
Oh, you had the E-Wing instead of the X-Wing. Remember the E-Wing was like the newest Republic fighter, the new Republic fighter.
Yeah.
You know, the Imperial Remnant had some pretty cool ties. I mean, I had someone debating with me a few months ago telling me that, well, the new TIE fighters are bigger and they're shielded and they have hyperdrives. And I'm like, so they're TIE defenders?
Like, basically the same thing we've seen before.
Right. In the EU. But so why not just give us those? Why not just make those?
They did put the TIE Defender in Rebels, I think, but it only had like a few episodes of screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that really came down to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau saying that like even the two of them had said like, look, there's a lot of good stuff in here, and okay, fine. Disney said like, oh, we're drawing the line here and moving on, but like they've gone and said like, no, we're gonna take the best parts of what we know people like and what we know people want, and we can put it in our stuff.
Yeah, they've rescued a lot. Filoni has people, I know trash on that guy. I mean, I see it daily, right? But he has rescued so much of the EU and made it canon. I mean, if you think about it, he's kind of like the EU's fifth column within Lucasfilm. I mean, he made Thrawn canon, right? I mean, Thrawn was an EU character that is now 100% canon.
See,
that's great.
See, I don't think after this we're gonna switch over to the Empire Wars talk, but I never used to really get excited. I think when characters were when they announced that certain characters were being brought to canon, only because, and this is just my perspective on it, it's very respectable perspective. They're not like the original character. They're not gonna have like the same stories that character kind of had like in the expanded universe. Like the lore isn't like possible to line up in that case. I just never really got excited, I guess, when they said they're bringing a character over to canon, because that character's still not going to interact with the majority of the characters from the original canon that he or she is from. I don't know. It just never really excited me. Like, I respect him for actually doing it and not just, basically abandoning all of the, like, original Star Wars, basically. The original Star Wars that we used to have back in the day. I'm glad he didn't just completely abandon it. I don't know. I never used to really get excited when characters were being brought over. I don't know, it just never really did anything for me.
I think it's fun to see any character that you've read a lot about and you've shared time with that character in the books, right? And because reading is a very personal experience for a lot of people, right? I mean, you get into books, right? And books, unlike movies where you kind of watch it in 1 hour and a half and you're done, books are emotional as well. I mean, you feel the emotion of those characters, right? That are being portrayed. So you can get a lot of people get attached to these characters and these stories. I mean, just look at all the people that cry over Harry Potter books, right?
True.
I mean, so to see a beloved character and, Thrawn, villain or not, he is a very cool character in those books, and to see him brought to life by Filoni, it is exciting, right? I mean, even if it's not done 100% correct, he got him pretty darn close. I mean, even the whole, like, how he studies, the art, right, to, like, gain insight, like, that was 100% how he was in those books. So, to me, he did the best that he could. And I think I'm grateful that he was able to do anything with that, you know?
I respect that.
I mean, dude,
At least we got him.
Yeah, he even brought in the Nogri as the bodyguards for Thrawn, which I thought was also interesting, you know? So I thought
I guess I just gotta look at it as like it's a homage versus being like a 1-to-1. It's more like a homage.
Right.
Yeah.
That character. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a pretty nice homage, right? I mean,
Yep.
and there were lots of things from the
Homage.
old EU that George Lucas brought in, right? For example, the 501st. You know, that was a completely fan-made unit, right?
Was
And-
it?
Yep, 100%.
I didn't know
501st.
that.
Yeah.
Never officially named.
Nope. It was a fan-made unit, right? And they liked it so much, including the backstory of the unit itself, that they made it official. Same with Coruscant. Coruscant was not,
How did you just pronounce that?
Coruscant? How's it pronounced?
You said
Coruscant?
Coruscant.
Hey.
Coruscant?
I'm giving Corey's not even here, and I'm shouting his name out.
Coruscant. What a hell of a way to pronounce it. All right, continue. I'm sorry. That just caught
This
me off
coming
guard.
from the guy who calls me Xerox, like the copy people.
Brother, your
right?
name spells Xerox. What do you want from me?
It's a 0 and an X, right? Anyway, it's that planet that was EU also, and Lucas liked it so much, the concept of it, and the written description of it, that he made it real, right? That he, those designs, the planet, how it looked from space, where we saw it in episode 1, Phantom Menace.
That is a beautiful shot looking back at it.
Yeah.
That is such an incredible shot.
That we have the EU to thank for that, and he said that. But if you also remember the whole concept of Boba Fett, right? He's a clone. I mean, obviously there were stories written about Boba Fett, and all of those got trashed. The moment that episode 2, Attack of the Clones, came out. I mean, right away. Like I remember watching that in the theater and going, well, I guess that book is done. So, but Lucas always said, hey, look, I'll let you guys write these stories, but at any time, I have the right to change anything I want. But he was always gracious that he tried not to do that,
Yep.
And his only condition was, if I remember, I read this somewhere, like he had basically said, look, you can't kill off any main characters. And when the Vong, when they wanted to kill off Chewbacca, like they actually had to go get permission from George Lucas to do that. And
Makes
he agreed,
sense.
So
I always thought that the way Chewie died in the expanded universe was way more heroic compared to like how Han dies in what is it, The Force Awakens?
You felt it.
Oh, there's no comparison.
How about how Mace Windu died, right? Getting thrown out a window. Come on, right?
Hey man, what about all the fan theories that he's still alive and also remote playing or something?
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson, his one condition for playing Mace Windu was that he doesn't die like, his exact quote was, I don't want to die like a bitch. What he said. And they promised him that he would not. They gave him a spectacular death.
Electrocuted and thrown out of a window.
But they didn't actually show him dying.
Oh,
No.
right. My bad. Yeah, he could be possibly maybe alive.
No, he fell into the speeder with the guy selling the death sticks, and then he...
Is that the canonical like piece right there? He fell into a speeder?
Yeah, he fell into a speeder. Like,
Is that canon to the lore?
like the Fifth Element, right?
Yeah.
Fell into Bruce Willis' cab, and the death sticks guy was in the cab, and then he got taken to a secret hospital.
He got reincarnated into a Bruce Willis movie. That's what
Right, so
happened.
now he's like Darth Maul, but he's got like the robot arm and...
Stop it.
See, the reason why he didn't live is he wasn't angry enough. Like if he went the Darth Maul route, he would have survived if he'd just been a little bit more angry. You know what? No. If he had said motherfucker in that movie, he would have lived 100%.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was always hoping for that too. Even in that whole fight scene, I was hoping he'd swear, and he didn't. It was a bummer. The letdown.
All right. Let's switch over a little bit to because I know some people are definitely going to be coming here to watch this, mostly to hear more about Republic at War and probably gain all the little sweet secrets and get a little behind the scenes information that they're never going to get.
He's whispering.
just the
know,
secrets. But
The secret.
let me ask you this, guys. So, Republic at War, it's back. It's been 10 years since we had like a real official kind of release. How the hell is everything looking right now?
We are on target and on time for a release that should be coming at the end of Q1, which is in a couple of weeks, or the very beginning of Q2, which is also in a couple of weeks, obviously. But we are wrapping up the final stages here. This is not a massive release. Compared
But it's like a
to
fix, sort of like an update for.
Yeah, we are fixing a lot of issues that have come up over the years that kind of didn't get fixed, and most of those bugs are very minor, right? I mean, we're talking just, we are making some changes, some dramatic changes as well, to balancing.
Okay, wait, throw me a fastball if you can talk about it. What is one drastic change you're changing that you know is going to be questionable to a lot of people?
We are going to be reducing the fighter count for the Confederacy significantly, which we know that
Donut spam.
Yeah. We are going to dramatically reduce the amount of squadrons that those ships carry and the number of fighters on screen. We've realized that well, number one, it's just not realistic, right? I mean, even in the movies, these massive battles, there were lots of fighters, but not at the level that we're seeing here, right? I mean, some of these battles are very small on screen that we have, yet there's like 800 fighters. And we've just began to realize that these stats that we were using, especially for the Venator, I was laughing with the team the other day. Wikipedia says the Venator carried 482 fighters. Now, I did the math on this. It's impossible, right? I mean, it just, even if these things were stacked on top of one another and like Jenga, Tetrised in there somehow, there is no way you could even fit 2/3 of that number in that hangar bay.
I always used to look at that with the perspective of, okay, it doesn't carry that kind of complement on a regular basis. That's just a possible complement it could carry like at max capacity. But even then, I thought that was just absurd.
It got the whole ship.
No, we actually did the math. So like we figured out like the volume of the hangar, right?
Yeah.
And then you figure out like the volume of what it's not even possible.
Especially if you factor into like LAAT gunships and ARC 170s, which are fucking massive compared to like a V-wing. Yeah,
Not to mention, it also claims they carried multiple shuttles, and they carried those prefab like barracks and base those. And we look, the end of Clone Wars, the series, we actually got a really good view of the hangar portion of a Venator. There's that whole Ahsoka scene where she's being, with Rex. You could see that hangar bay. Does it look like it could hold 500 fighters? I mean, Arvis, you're the naval expert. What does an aircraft carrier hold? One of our carriers. Like, I mean, what is it?
Two full squadrons can fit within the hangar, but there is no room to move them.
And so, are we talking like a Nimitz class, or are we talking a Gerald R. Ford class?
No. Well, I mean, I'm basing this off the Nimitz class.
85 to 90.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like that's wings folded, Tetrised into each other. Like there is there is no space between them. And in order to like get any of them onto the deck, it's like, well, the one that's by the elevator has to go first, right? And then I want to pull the next one out. It's like, it can be done. Is it ever done? No, it's really not. Like, they don't ever like to do that.
I want you to think of those numbers, right? And think of those numbers, right? And then think of the show, The Clone Wars, right? I mean, usually they launch one squadron of fighters or one squadron of bombers, and they seem to have nothing else available to like back them up.
That is one of the that is always one of the most annoying things. Like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's launching one. They launch one of each.
Yeah, like if you look at the 3-episode series of the attack on the Malevolence, right? That you have Shadow Squadron and like one squadron of fighters launched from that ship, right? Now, you've seen inside the Venators. Those ships are not stacked up on top of one another. There's lots of room between them. They have like ground crews working on those things with they have ladders and little carts driving around servicing them. They're not jammed in there. So clearly these things are carrying 1 or 2 squadrons, just like our carriers are. So
I feel like the Clone Wars one is a bit of a horror reference to an extent too, because sometimes I think they just cut for budget reasons. I think they just didn't have enough like money to put up multiple on-screen units on air at the same time. Like in the case of Shadow Squadron and like a couple of fighters here and there. I just thought that might have been for like a budget reason, honestly.
I mean, it is because it's a limitation of what they can, reasonably render into a 30-minute episode that they can stick on TV. But like even to what Zero is saying, like you still get views of the entire inside of the hangar, and you can see that the hangar is filled with fighters, right? But it is nowhere near what the 400 and some odd that the incredible cross section says, right? I mean, like, and that's really kind of just where you have to learn to like, look, there's a difference between reasonable and being like sticking to the hard canon, like just saying shit for the sake of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, it says 467. It must be that. Okay, well, what's actually reasonable? Like, come on, let's really look at this and do what's reasonable and not just stick to what it says. No, he's absolutely right. And so when we were designing like a lot of our, numbers, right? We were basing all of our numbers based on incredible cross sections as sources and Wikipedia and things like that. And like, what are the stats, right? Like, what do they say? But as you begin to get into these, you realize that whoever wrote these has never designed anything for real in real life, like any sort of engineer. Like, they were never in the military, probably. They've never actually they've never touched anything or designed a car or a boat. Like, they have no idea.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mention this too, because I remember now. This is back when I used to be a fanatic for like the expanded universe. Like I still am, but this is like 8th grade. We're doing nothing in the like elementary or middle school that I'm in because it's shutting down that year. So every fucking day I'm on Wikipedia reading lore for like 4 hours straight, just constantly. That's all I did. And awesome. It reminds me of when I first really started looking into like the Venator and its design philosophy. Looking back at the cross sections, seeing like where the reactor was, where all the different like cable management was going for all the different turbo lasers, how all that set up, all the different hallways, your barracks, your like all the different cross sections and various like locations in that ship. And it did never make sense to me how that one vessel could hold all of that and potentially 500 starfighters. Like, it never made any sense to me. No. And then I did a cross section with our own actual carriers back then too. I'm only just remembering all of this now. I mean, I want you to think about, imagine one of our own aircraft carriers, not only carrying the aircraft, right, but also the bombers and the P3 Orions, right? Also the rescue helicopters, all of that stuff. And on top of it, they carry 25,000 clone troopers. Right. Prefab landing craft, assault craft, ATTEs, a whole bunch of them, ATRTs, speeder bikes, all this stuff, and it's all carried on one vessel. No Navy in history does that, okay? None. All right, not even the Romans.
That's an entire invasion force on one ship.
That's literally capable of taking an entire star system by itself, like at that point.
Right. So, and by the way, the Venator, if you look at the design, it is a true carrier, right? I mean, even those 2 bridges, one is the command bridge for the ship, the other one is the command bridge for the aircraft, the fighters and the bombers. And you begin to realize that how they've designed this ship on screen, with the opening doors and the landing, the corridor in the middle so the ships can land, the individual stalls for the ships. It's basically, it is the Nimitz class for the Republic. I mean,
with guns.
Right, with guns.
With guns,
They've built, fleets around one of these ships, right, where they've got a bunch of smaller support ships supporting this carrier. But we are not seeing 500 fighters spawning out of this thing in any source of canon anywhere other than those books.
So would you say the same thing kind of going back to the modding related stuff, the Lokerhult class that you're cutting back, like you're cutting back its like fighter count, is that just also just because it's a little nonsensical too?
It is nonsensical, right? I mean,
because even with the droid army having like a near limitless supply of like fighters, craft, whatever, you know, not every single Local Hawk can carry that much at every given moment. It's just not even possible, like, no matter how powerful your supply chain is.
Someone calculated out, and I think like this math actually makes sense. Like I read, like they figured out that there were probably anywhere from 4 to 6 billion battle droids produced, right? And that's a realistic number, right? But how many of those were actually vulture droids and tri droids? Like, you know, I mean, you can extrapolate that. So if you think about it, you know, even the numbers that we're using in the mod are insanely high for what, you know, we saw on screen, right? I mean, in the Clone Wars series, we did see there were always more vultures than there were clone fighters, but not anywhere in the numbers that we have. Not even close, right? So we realize we are definitely overdoing it. And the fighter spam has been one of the biggest complaints that we would hear from fans. I mean, almost universally hated. So, with that much hate, as much as we understand why we did it that way, it's time for a change. So it will be changed.
That makes sense, because I remember that being one of the biggest issues on top of the Local Hawk spam back in the day. Just trying to fight off literally 10 million droid fighters got old very quick. It was every battle, every single battle. How many droid fighters can appear on screen today?
Oh, look, and the other thing is, and I think everyone will agree with this, I mean, except for the very few, nobody wants to micromanage hundreds of little fighters, right? I mean, it's okay for a couple, you know, they're tasked with very specific things, but going forward, you will be able to manage the big ships against the big ships, right? Small ships against the small ships and so on, and you're going to have fleet battles the way it should be. Fighters have a role, but fighters are designed to do what? And Arvis, again, our resident naval guy, fighters are designed to take out other bombers, right? And take out other fighters. They should not be destroying capital ships, all right? They just shouldn't.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, in addition, so aside from that, are there any like other like crazy changes that are coming that you could talk about, or is everything else a little hush hush?
So, I don't know about crazy changes, right? I mean, there are some things that are being removed. For example, the stim pack ability on all the clones is going bye-bye, all right? It was, I'm not even sure why we had it originally, but it's gone, because it's a little cheesy. We are going to be adding, I don't know if it's in this release or future, we will be adding weapons to all of the landing craft going forward, which will prevent some certain play styles.
Just trap them all at the landing zone, or
exactly.
Spawn rushing.
We're
that was
be
my
doing
favorite playstyle back in the day. I used to do that just because I felt like the TX-130s used to really get just destroyed sometimes against most Confederate tanks. So I got fed up. I would build like, because the ground limit on Republic at War was actually way higher than most mods back in the day. So I would build like 10 to 12 squads of TX-130 Saber tanks and just rush the ever-living hell out of their landing zone.
Oh yeah. Look, we still want people to be able to do that, right? But we want like defenseless, you know, B-1 droids that are coming in and off the landing craft to have a fighting chance. And so, you know, if you're dumb enough to get your tanks near a, you know, very large ship that's coming down with, you know, heavy turbo lasers on it, then, you know, you're going to pay the price. You know,
it's like a high risk, high reward kind of thing.
Right. I mean, so
and all the landing craft are armed on screen anyway.
They are, right. So we're not.
They're designed for area suppression before landing.
Right. Right. I mean, and that goes back to like just basic military tactics. Tactics where, you know, the Navy would go in and soften up any sort of landing zone, you know, ahead of the troops actually landing, right? I mean, they'd shell the beachhead or whatever, you know, whatever it is, right? So this is all very, you know, to us, it's realistic. I mean, it'd be cool if we can get like an orbital bombardment even before they land, right? Like it just blows the hell out of everything, but, you know, that wouldn't be very, you know, you're killing innocent victims there and taking out just what.
Come on, it's Star Wars. War crimes are acceptable.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, war crimes are.
It's not very sporting.
No. The other big thing that we have listened to the fans on is the Jedi death stacks. It's something that it's very hard to play as the Confederacy against another player with these death stacks. We are going to be implementing some changes that will make it much harder for people to utilize those death stacks. And we're not sure. We've fleshed out an outline of how we think we can do it, and we know it's going to upset some people. But look, tough changes do have to be made. Tough choices have to be made. But at the end of the day, we can't have something totally unbalanced just for the sake of, that's just how they were, right? It's still a game, and it has to be fun.
Well, we've had this discussion so many times over at Empire War Remake in regards to gameplay over just being like a power fantasy, and a lot of people were not keen on the design philosophies of how like the Empire was designed, not starting with 80 Star Destroyers, and the economic system is always up for debate, in my opinion, for anybody in the comment section. But a lot of people didn't like the fact that there were with like downsides to owning just multiple massive ships. You had to pay for it, and then you had like an upkeep cost to go with it, because the Star Destroyer in Empire War Remake is no joke. And a lot of people weren't a fan of that they didn't get to live out there like power fantasies like the previous versions of the mod allowed you. But it's just like, after a while of just doing that over and over and over, we kind of realized like, all right, this really isn't like, there's no thought process in this. It's just powerful units. That's like kind of it, and I kind of understand the perspective of a lot of people that didn't like the economic system. But as far as like, having this just crazy power fantasy where you just have every single thing that you want at your disposal, it takes away from the fact that this is still a game, and the goals are kind of always try to keep things a little bit balanced. You still want to make it an experience that you got to kind of put the effort in, just to have, like to win. If it's just all given to you, like
yeah, but I mean, the easiest way to put this is a real-time strategy game.
Yeah, exactly.
It is not a real-time ruffle stomp.
Exactly.
That's not a game. That's just it's just dumb.
It's like I said, it's a power fantasy. Like you're just doing whatever with no backdraw, at all.
One of the tenets of the mod has always been, and we actually just recently reaffirmed this when Anakin put out our mod's mission statement, I guess you would call it, right? About like what for the whole team to kind of digest. One of the cornerstones of the mod has always been obviously playability and whatnot, but we want what's called epic battles, right? It's always been that, epic battles. Now, epic battles are fun, okay? They're not so epic though when you can have these death stacks that just come in and just like wipe everything out. That's not fun. That's not even fair, right? And people can argue and say, well, that's how it was, and the Jedi are very powerful, and they've got this and they've got that, and it's like, yeah, but that's not. Where is the counterbalance to that? And I've heard all the arguments, and some of them are there is no counterbalance because that's not real.
Well, I mean, but it's like people forget that Jedi still died in the Clone Wars, so like you could argue that, all right, well, the Jedi can be this powerful, but then they could just get one shot by a super battle droid. That'll make it fair.
Yeah, that's
true. They could take a rocket to the face and they don't live.
I think a lot of people don't realize too that like even in the context of the Clone Wars itself, like the Republic was on the back foot for the first half. Like they lost the majority of their major battles early on, and it's like, look, when you're translating this into a game, like every engagement has to be capable of going either way, and it comes down to who's playing it, right? It shouldn't be just to like, well, I picked this faction and therefore I should win.
Yep.
Well, some of you caught, and I'm sure many of you saw this, the old Cartoon Network micro series, right? That came out for the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
That probably, like a lot of people that watched that or grew up on that grossly exaggerated the Jedi, right? I mean, you have a scene with Mace Windu like punching thousands.
One-man armies.
Yeah.
I mean, remember he takes out that seismic tank. I mean, it is ridiculous, right?
Okay, not that it wasn't good media for the time that it came out, but I will tell you this: like that series is the definition of fan wank.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It is pure fan wanking.
Yeah, it's just literal eye candy at that point. It's just there for the for the pure fact of you're going to enjoy watching this crazy shit happen on screen, but it's not going to make any sense at all.
And the other thing is that people, but I want you to think about that. There are thousands of Star Wars fans that like really watched that, grew up on that series, they loved it. They took away from that the belief that, well, in the game or any game, Mace Windu, Anakin, these guys should be like, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando. I mean, like nobody can stop them. I mean, and that's just, that's not the reality that we're trying to do here. Now, we don't want the door to swing in the opposite direction either, right? Like, we're not going to remove the fun factor for the sake of realism. There are other mods that do realism very well. We are not one of those mods. I've never been a fan of realism mods either, because the whole point is if you wanted realism, then go out, go into combat for real, okay? Like that's real combat, but it's supposed to be fun. It's a game. Most of the fans, and we are making this for the fans, right? I mean, we always say it's for us, but come on. I mean, I barely play our mod, right? I mean, it's
I think that goes for pretty much any modder too.
Right.
I think Corey is probably the only one I've ever seen make a YouTube series out of his own mod, which I think is pretty impressive to an extent. He's the only guy I've ever seen actually do that, make a full-fledged multi-faction episodic series out of his own project.
All right.
Bullet doesn't even do it anymore.
Yeah. Here, hold my beer, okay? I'll get right on that. Look, maybe that's something that we are also considering as well. For us to do, something like that along those lines. But as for now, the update that's coming out, we are releasing some new units. Now, some of these units, they were promised back for releases that never got released way back. Namely the 1.3 release, right? That's what this is.
The mythical, what was that one called? It was 1.3. It had a title, I think.
Yeah. Well, there was Rush to Victory, which
Rush
was
to Victory. That's what.
But 1.3 was supposed to be something else, and I'm sure I could find it. But many of the units from that release that did not happen will be in this release. So the Conqueror, the Flame Troopers, the Rofana battleship, and the Scarab fighter, all will be in. But mainly what we are doing, and plus we have 18 maps that are brand new, redone. So some of the existing levels have been replaced with brand new work. Plus we have two new planets coming in. Actually, I take that back. It's actually ballooned up now. We have several new planets coming in now. The two obvious ones are Pamat and Christophsis, but we've also added in some of the planets that were removed way back for, we took them out for performance reasons, right? But we've learned so much since then. We know that the number of planets really doesn't have a drag on the performance. That's the number of units that are being moved around. So we are putting Dagobah, Manan, and Shola back in because they were taken out. So now they're back. So the full Clone Wars GC, our main one, is gonna have right now probably around close to 80 planets going in instead of 70 or 72.
That sounds right,
yeah. Now, future releases, we already have the planets coded. And we have a list of all of them, so we know what they are. Many of our fans have already seen this. I've done some live streams where people can see the layout. And that's the other thing as well. We have a new galaxy, new graphics, new layout, the trade routes, all that is all new.
I was going to interject and ask, and this is just my own thing as a guy who's played so many different mods. I've always enjoyed when the galactic map kind of just lays things out, says what route is where. It doesn't really add a major factor to the game other than that element of you're in the Star Wars galaxy and you're going to know it. You're the what is it? The Perlimian trade route is here. The Carillion run is here. The Hiding Way is over here. I've always seeing those names on the galactic map.
So we, our locations, we believe, are pretty close to the established maps that are out there. We've gone back and redone all that, right? So everything has been moved around. And like I said, I got to have some fun. 2 weeks ago, I did a Twitch live stream, and I was showing, the dev version of the mod where people could see what things look like. And overall, people were kind of shocked because it looks vastly different than what they remember, or what they're.
Oh, don't tell me that, dude. Now you got me itching to play.
As you were moving planets around.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just move. I mean, everything looks very different, right? It still looks, it feels like Republic at War, but it is very, very different, and different as in good. We have gotten nothing but positive feedback from people that have seen it and looked at it. And right now, most of that should be going to the testers pretty soon. But like I said, so far, it's been nothing but positive. So I think, Jay, you'll be very happy. I really do.
I'm looking forward to it. I wanted to, I'll save questions that are related to testing and stuff after this recording. I'll save that for later. One key thing that I actually did have a big question about too was like, a lot of mods nowadays have adapted like space combat to have like multiple space structures, multiple space stations that all serve like a purpose. So every battle kind of, to an extent feels a little bit different, with some planets having like unique structures. And I've always just wondered, is there ever like a direction to go with that? Like, is there going to be a direction for that? Like, certain like planets will have unique space structures, and then there'll be more space structures in addition just to your, typical like space station.
We are actually moving towards that. So a lot of people will remember, if they've been around long enough, I implemented a feature like that way back, even before Republic at War, and my old, the Z2 mod and 3 and 3.5. We had some of those features, and those will be implemented again. We are working on some new structures that will supplant the space stations, but space stations are going to be space stations and not just shipyards, right? Like, we're going to have shipyards, now, that we implemented casinos, the space casinos before. We also have skyhooks in the mod, although they're props. If they get destroyed, obviously, you're penalized monetarily, and that's been around. Like, we had that in there for a while, but
you're right. It's been a minute. Wow, you're reminding me of stuff that I've seen like 10 years ago.
we are going to be adding in some new defensive structures. I mean, right now we do have those gun platforms on Munilist, if I'm pronouncing that right.
You got it.
More of the Confederacy planets are probably going to have those, the banking clan ones. We've had suggestions of adding in the Golan ones, defense platforms for like Coruscant and maybe Kuat, some of the major production planets in the capital, obviously. We're not sure if that's like a thing or if they really existed, we're doing more research, but yes, we are going to be adding some secondary and third level structures as well that you can build in space that will be there, and not just the stations.
Okay, that'll be awesome. Shoot, all right. Well, that pretty much answered one of the primary questions I kind of had. Between the three of you, is there anything else like you kind of want to interject with, like, or add on to, like, anything related to Republic at War? Like, what are you all most excited about, like, seeing, like, for everybody that actually like play? Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry, that was worded really weird. What part of the mod are all three of you each kind of excited to just see, like, in action, for everybody to like try out and have fun?
Well, Arvis, why don't you tell everybody, I mean, how you're going to be redoing every single model we have as far as space goes?
So caveat, that is not part of this release, and likely not part of the next one after it. But I'm going through and doing an overhaul, first with the Republic and then with the Confederacy. So all new assets, working with Carrick specifically for textures, like just a complete like graphical overhaul and upgrade, in addition to adding in a couple of units that have been long requested that haven't been done, like the Acclamator frigate, in addition to the Acclamator assault ship. So like there's a few more additions coming in there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jay, the art coming from Arvis and Carrick, it's like drooling. Like, I mean, like, it's like, oh, it's so pretty.
Okay, wait, let me ask you this. Do we have anything we could show on screen for like a frame in this video?
Yeah, Arvis, go grab one, man. Grab the.
Yeah. I mean, which ones do you want me to?
I'll let you judge what you think looks just drool worthy. Although it's all drool worthy, so.
I mean, yeah. Here, here, let me upload it into the chat here.
Jay's got pretty high standards, so it'll be interesting to see his take on this.
Where are we?
But while we wait, I guess we probably should just go mute while we're in the middle of a podcast. But so while he grabs that, RISSIEN, what's something you're looking forward to, man? Like, what's something in the mod that you can't wait for everybody to see?
Is
Yeah. Trying to think.
I thought he fell asleep.
Because I haven't been as involved yet. But
Holy shit.
it's like I'm always been more of a space guy, so looking forward to where's what we space battle, all the new mods especially that are to come.
I'm looking forward to RISSIEN helping us write a lot of this stuff, which he used to do. He's good at that.
My job hasn't come into play too much lately yet.
As we begin to expand and add more content, like it's funny, like there are people right now who are kind of kicking rocks, essentially, right? You know, they're sitting around going, I've got nothing to do. You know, that's obviously going to change as more and more stuff is being put out.
Especially with a couple of progress updates. I'm just like, yep, nothing.
So James, you can see on the screen here. I'm not sure what you think.
I verbally let out a holy shit if you didn't hear me say that when I saw the first image. So
yeah, like these aren't going to be included in like the main release because these are kind of like some subset items that'll be going in later. But yeah, so like this is the stuff that Carrick and I have already done. So like I did the U-wing, I gave the U-wing an interior. He went back and like redid the whole texture layout for it based on my model, and then we worked together for the two fighters and the Stinger, the two variants of the Stinger. They have their own lore that go behind them and why they're done the way they are, but yeah, this is the direction that I'm taking all of. I'm gonna be taking all the existing Republic units first, then the Confederacy, because I kind of want to get one done and then move on to the other one. So like they'll be, like, visually speaking, they'll be moving in this direction. Logos, like the logos are interchangeable, so they'll have OCA emblems and everything on the ones that I'm redoing. But yeah, so like this is just a sampling of what we've done in small craft, and then we're going into capitals.
So I have to ask, what and this is just because it's obviously Clone Wars era. What's that second ship at the bottom, or that first ship at the bottom, and then why the U-wing? Out of curiosity.
So basically I mean, Zero, if are you cool with me like putting out what the agreement was that we came up with?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so basically, in exchange for me doing a bunch of the work and coordinating with Carrick to get a lot of this done, well, like we came to the agreement that basically further down the line, there's going to be a specific unit submod for Republic at War that will reduce the build list to only certain items, and it's going to be a later Clone Wars mod, kind of the idea that the war continued past 3 years. So the Republic and the Confederacy on both ends kind of had to tweak what they were doing because, you know, the longer war goes on, the more stuff costs. So it all came down to what can we standardize, what can we start reusing, what designs are already out there that, you know, we can repurpose, kind of thing. Like, so for example, like the reason why there's two versions of the Stinger that are up there, these were put in there basically because like the Republic Diplomatic Corps lost all of their Corvettes to the fleet. They were all converted to C-70s, right? Because then after that point, it's like they're all in fleet service now as C-70s instead of being consular classes. So the Diplomatic Corps needed new ships to replace what they lost to the fleet, and then the Jedi wanted a gunship version to use as like a transport shuttle that they could that they could have as far as like with a combat capability, which is why there's now 2 versions of the Stinger. It's a smaller ship than the Consular, which means it's cheaper for them to make, and they can order more of them, but they can still get the mission done.
Okay, well, that's very well fleshed out. Hey.
So and basically like that's kind of like where the fighters and stuff come in. So like the idea behind the U-wing is that the Republic decided that they wanted to focus more on survivability of their troops, because if you can keep your troops around longer, you don't need more of them. So they replaced the LAAT-I with the UT-60.
So would that take out the LAT altogether?
For the later war submod, yes, it fills the role of the LAAT.
Okay, I wonder how some people are
And
going to
this
react
particular
to that.
version has both the laser cannons on the front and an undermounted turret.
Yeah,
Okay.
ARVIS mod is actually pretty neat. It's kind of like it takes the war, like if the war went longer than it did, right? Like this was the progression that things would have gone. Like, so I like that. It's actually kind of neat, right?
Yeah.
And Jay, I've tossed in a couple images for you to kind of mull over here. One is a image that we really haven't shared with very many people, but
That Umbara?
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Now the map, this was not a real map, but the props are real, and this was done just to showcase the props themselves. Also, you can also see some props for Onderon here.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah, that planet is not going to be in this update. It'll probably be in the next update.
Isn't this the castle? Was this in the Clone Wars or was this in Knights of the Old Republic?
Yeah.
This...
No,
Yeah,
that's the Clone Wars.
Yep, this is in the Clone
Okay.
Wars. Yeah, you see their palace there. So
Yep.
we
Okay.
have probably like, I think, 30 new props for Onderon that were, I mean, I've got maybe 15, I think, done, and I'm working on more. So, you know, some of these locations I actually really enjoy, so I like doing all this. So,
Yep.
Umbara, Onderon, and I like the architecture is just interesting to me. It's all kind of like Eastern, like it's like Turkish almost a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but it was kind of neat. But you know, I want you, now that you've seen some of the art that Arvis has shared, right? I mean, you see how things, the direction they're going. Now imagine our big capital ships with this level
Yeah.
of and this style, and I think you can. It's I mean, what we did long ago was great. Some of our art has not aged well. Some has, it really has. All right. I mean, you know, some of our stuff is holding its own even now, but a lot of what we have, it needs to be replaced. It's time for another. It's time.
Yeah.
for an
It's past its prime.
right.
Yeah, and I mean even some of my old stuff is gonna get replaced too. So, like,
Yeah.
it's I don't know how, but some of my stuff is still kicking around.
Yeah. Actually, and it's sad. Arvis's Providence, him and Warb did a wonderful Providence that was put into the original mod, and then it was removed during a bug update fix and replaced with EJs. And I noticed this not too long ago, and I asked Anakin, I'm like, why was this removed? And nobody seems to remember why it was taken out. But Arvis's model is clearly superior. The model and the texture are significantly. It's not even like, oh, maybe. I mean, they are. The only complaint that people seem to have is that the stuff we did back then was very clean, right? Like everything looked brand new. All the ships looked brand new. And weathering now is very important. So that is playing a role in everything that we're designing. So
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I
Nothing is
designed-
gonna be fresh off the assembly line anymore.
No, I had designed a bunch of new clones, and the first thing Anakin said when he saw them was, he's like, they look brand new. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I do want some brand new ones, but you're right, they need to be dirtied up. So
I do have an idea for that too.
Yeah.
And here's just an idea. What if you make like the clones that spawn on like Camino? What if you make them brand new? Like they have brand new like shells, like right off the rip, because they're coming out of Camino.
that's actually a good idea. We could do that, you know. But like the ones that you're producing on these other planets, you know, like they should
Yeah.
be, you know, like dirty and
Veterans.
right? You got it.
Yeah,
So-
the idea isn't you're spawning a brand new army on every planet when you do that. It's more like they're coming out of reserve and you're placing them there, but it's a unit that already exists.
Yep, they've already seen combat a little bit. They've been involved with this planet already to some extent. So yeah, that makes sense.
We do have some exciting mechanics coming up that we're beyond, we've fleshed out, and now it's kind of like the staff just going back and forth about how we implement this. I'm not at the level, Jay, where I can say, okay, this is what we're going to do, because some of this stuff we do want to keep close to the vest, but I can tell you it is very exciting.
Okay.
We are not going to we have very dedicated fans, and most of our fans are very particular about how they want this mod to go. We are not going to go in some weird direction. I promise everyone that's not going to happen. We are not going to take this thing and all of a sudden try to be something that we're not.
Right.
Everyone generally agrees that they like that our mod stays as close to the original game as it possibly can. And for us, that's important because the game is fun, right? It's supposed to be fun, and we didn't want it to be too challenging where a player, you can't figure it out, right? I mean, I remember playing Rebellion back in the day, and I still can't figure that game out.
I tried playing that once. It was the most confusing experience of my life.
Oh yeah. I mean, just, we don't want it to be that way, right? So we know that we can add in new things, right?
Yep.
That add playability, right? Replayability to the mod over and over again.
Without making it complicated.
You got it. Without moving just too far into that other direction realm of how the hell do you do this? So, and there are some great mods out there that have done some amazing things with some of those features, but we're still going to keep things as simplistic as possible. But we do want to add new, and we do believe that we've come up with some very interesting concepts that will do just that.
But they're all intended to work with the game as opposed to trying to rehash or recreate or make it something that's not.
Right, like turn it into an entirely different.
No, this isn't the engine for that. It's not. I mean, it is a strategy game. It's a combat game as well, but it's also a grand strategy game. With the whole moving things around the galaxy and whatnot. But it is not an economic game, right? If it was, then the devs would have given us much more, things to use for that, more resources, right?
Yep.
It's not a 4X strategy game.
No. It's not Hearts of Iron, right? Where you got like all this different, and you can have fun with that too, right? And like I said, there's mods that have done amazing work to get that to work.
Yep.
That's just not us, right? And we do have fans that'll come to us and they're like, oh, can you guys do this or that? And it's like, we could, right? But if we do that, then we're kind of moving away from what we always were and what we have always touted ourselves to be, right? And we don't want to be that mod, right? Like if that's something that you want, you can implement it yourself, or here's a good project over here you can probably, check out, right? But we're not going to do that. We're going to stick and do this over here. But it is interesting to see some of the sub-mods that people have done with the work that we did. And some of those ideas, we've reached out to some of the better sub-mods, and we've reached out to the devs that did those. Some of them were offered spots on the team. Some of them have accepted. Some of them have other commitments. But all of them have said, hey, feel free to use anything that we did. And going through some of these projects, we have found some very, very good ideas. So some of those are going to be implemented as well.
Okay, cool. I mean, I gotta say, and I'm mostly going to go in this direction too, because we are reaching close to potential hour and a half mark. We got about 12 minutes until then, but I do want to say we're gonna definitely start wrapping things up soon. But I definitely do want to say, from like my perspective as a guy who played this 12 years ago, I think I actually did a Let's Play on it probably in like 2017. I think that was the last one I did a Let's Play on it, way back when. It's exciting. I'm excited to see where things just kind of go, and just to have all this new stuff to really kind of play around with, and to obviously make more content on it too. But I think this is going to be a good time. I think people are really going to enjoy this.
I'm having fun. I mean, I like rediscovering all the stuff I've forgotten about, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
how to do things, just like I think it was last night. We have something that was giving the team some trouble on the coding side, and I am not the team's coder anymore, right? We have several people that do that, but I stepped up and I was like, let me look at this. And I actually figured out and I fixed it. And I said to myself, I still got it. I still able, I pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Yeah, I still got it.
I can still detect incorrect syntax.
Right. Dude, I haven't touched some of this stuff literally in 12 years, right? But I still can look at this code because I spent so many hours staring at it and know, hey, that's not right. Or this actually goes here, or this is missing, right?
Yep.
So it's just amazing how it all comes back. And some of this stuff is just pure muscle memory. It's like, check this, check that. So, but that's, to me, is fun. It's just it's like exploring, but you're actually re-exploring.
Right. You're relearning.
So
you're relearning and re-exploring. Yeah.
Just picking up where you let, and someone told me that's like, oh, it's like riding a bike. I think Jerome told me that. He's like, it's like riding a bike. I'm like, dude, it is not like riding a bike.
It's like riding a bike with 4 extra pedals attached to it.
Yeah, and a bike that you keep the wheel keeps falling off as keep tipping over and smashing your face into the sidewalk.
It's like relearning how to ride a unicycle. That's a better perception of it.
Yeah.
Rollerblading backwards. That's what. But yeah, it is fun relearning, and I've had to relearn. Obviously, I started with the stuff I'd be doing immediately, like trying to, relearn how to rig, right? Because I was still modeling, so I know how to do that. But the rigging part just for Empire at War is so different than a lot of the rigging for other games. So it was like, okay, I got to relearn how to do this, then I got to know how to do this, and then it's fun. It really is, and everyone's been a big help too. And I've been stumped a couple times. I post in the mod hub area, and you get responses pretty fast. So.
Yeah, people love it, man. They love this game. They love it. We're talking 17 years later, people are still absolutely in love with this game and the modding community around it. You don't really see too many things like this.
No, it's crazy.
Lasting this long.
I don't get it. I really don't. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I don't get it because it's like
when you see newer games that have died in the meantime, but the community for this one is still
like completely just thriving.
Yeah. There just is no, like, I guess there's no comparable game like this that's out there, right? I mean, there are other games that are not Star Wars, and they're trying to make Star Wars mods, but those there are some really impressive Total War mods, right? The problem though is that you can't. I don't know what space combat looks like in those. I assume it looks like garbage because it's just not designed for that.
Right.
The land combat though obviously is, obviously good. I mean, the land combat for Total War and games like Men of War and whatnot are obviously going to be far superior than Empire at War's land combat. But there are lots of things you can do to improve the land combat. And Jay, you and I talked privately about that. I have to say, a lot of mods, land is something that it's like scary. Maybe scary is not
people are scared to come even remotely close to land.
Right. Like, it's a lot more work than space, right? I mean, there's, modeling for land, I'm not going to say that, someone who models for land is a better modeler than somebody, that's not true. But,
there's definitely a lot more that goes into it. Yeah, especially with animation.
With animation and rigging, and there's even the coding. There's a lot more that goes into land. And the land battles are just not that big compared to the space battles,
Yep.
And they're not as visually appealing as the space stuff either. And by the way, a lot of people that got lured into this game were lured in right away from those shots of the space battles, the Star Destroyers and whatnot. Like, that was just like, holy cow, I want to play that. So,
Yep.
and the land stuff, look, we'd seen land before, like Galactic Battlegrounds and games like that. So none of this was new. So, we want to have good land battles because it's an important component of the mod, but it is an often overlooked. It's not all that way now, but I can tell you way back when we started doing this, a lot of mods wouldn't even do land. You know,
Yep.
I mean, there was a big mod. I'm not going to name it because it's still around.
Yeah, but
They didn't even have land, right? Like all the space battles or all the land battles were basically like, that's it. Like you couldn't land on the planet and fight. It was like all auto-resolve.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to do that. And then they finally moved on and they started doing something, but it wasn't good, right?
Yep.
But their space component was amazing, right? And I never got that. It's like, I don't understand. Like, and I remember talking to the guy who was doing it, and he was just like, well, I just don't. And what it boiled down to was he just didn't care about the land units. Like, he wasn't into that the way that he was into the space, the ships, and all the stats, right?
Yep.
And the land thing was more of like a calculation, right, than fun. Whereas the space stuff, again, that whole rebellion thing, he was into all the stats on the ships, but didn't give a shit about the stormtroopers. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, I just very, very different mindset, right? But there were a lot of people like that back then that were doing projects where it's like, look, the big visual thing is space. So we're going to focus on space, right? Or the people that I don't like land, I don't give a shit about it. So we're not going to make anything for it. And that's sad, right? It's just kind of like,
Yeah, I mean, and there were a few people that were like, hey, I have the time and energy and ability to do space, but I don't have the time and energy ability to do land because there's just so much more involved.
Right. Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Same with maps, too. I mean, we're fortunate that we have an incredible mapper working for us. I mean, I don't say this lightly, but the guy is like a savant. I mean, it's actually pretty scary, right? How much detail this guy, you know, and it just, like I said, you don't see many of these people come along, right? And he is just doing this, and the stuff is just like, Jay, I'm telling you, I've seen the stuff, your head's gonna spin, all right? It's just like, holy cow, I mean, it's like, is that even possible?
Like I said,
Like,
I'm looking forward to it, man. Like this is one of the projects that I for a while just kind of, you know, everything just kind of faded out, and then just to see it coming back, like I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Look, I was always good at designing maps that looked pretty, right? I mean, but they never played that well.
Yeah.
Because the map itself was supposed to be a selling point, right? Like, and it was the location that you were selling. So, like my Tatooine map, for example, I tried to, you know, replicate a certain location. And unfortunately, it's not a fun map to play on, right?
Yeah.
But it looked fantastic, right? But it's just not fun. Edward has managed to do what I couldn't do, which is make these locations look fantastic and play good, right?
Yep.
So and like I said, it's hard to get excited sometimes about maps, right? It was always kind of like it's like, well, who gives a crap, you know? Like,
Yep.
but the reality is you need to have, if the levels aren't fun, nobody wants to play on them.
Yep.
And that's just reality. So his task is to make them fun, right? To make them not only meet our expectations visually, but also combat, right? Like, hey, we want epic battles. So you need to design a level where we can have those battles on land, right? However,
And make it still
however you
like
do that
flow
layout.
functionally and like just not like
Right.
be more than just a visual appeal. Like you want it to also flow kind of too.
You got it, right?
Yeah,
So,
and it's more about making sure that it plays properly while still conveying the spirit of the look of the planet without saying like, no, it must be laid out exactly like the way this city was laid out, and that's the only way you can do it.
Yep.
right. But like I said, I can't wait for you guys to see some of what he's done. You know, I'm showing off ARVIS's work, but we have you know, other modelers on the team, Grimly and Kalani. Their art is also amazing. I wish they were here to show some of it off, but Jay, I can tell you what they've shown is phenomenal, and it fits Arvis's artistic aesthetic.
Maybe one day, maybe one of our like future podcasts will bring them on, but instead of it just being like a normal podcast, they just kind of show off their artwork a little bit, like what they've done, like once it's in a presentable state, you know. Maybe that could be like the first time that they actually show what those units look like to the public.
Oh yeah. I mean, and then we have like, you know, guys like GP who are doing coding, but they're actually modelers. So you know, and I just told him yesterday, I was like, okay, you can stop doing this now. You can start doing your art, you know, because we
do your real job now.
Yeah, well, we also took on more coders. We got some pretty good coders who jumped in. So, and like I said, one of them did a sub mod, and I liked it, and I was like, hey man, I'd really like to have you join us. And he was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. So, but yeah, Jay, it's an exciting time. I really think it is. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time to make content. I know that for a fact. I can't wait to actually make some new videos on the new version. That's definitely on the list of things I gotta do. Yeah.
So, and you know, there's behind the scenes between teams, there's things in motion, my friend. So I know you've probably heard some of it. Maybe you haven't.
A little tidbit here and there.
Right, but things are in the works, right? And some of those things, if they ever got announced, which they might, are probably going to make some heads explode, right? So, you know, in a good way, right? But yeah, we're pretty excited, and the future is collaboration. Let's just say that.
The future is collaboration.
The future is collaboration. So,
hey, yeah, I mean, like I said, and we're gonna start wrapping things up because we are at a 1 hour and 30-minute mark, and I gotta edit this. It's definitely, for one, and I hope that didn't sound rude the way I just kind of interjected right there. That didn't sound rude, did it?
How dare.
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. I don't want to be rude when it comes to ending things. I'm still kind of learning how to do that. But I do want to say, it is, for one, been an absolute pleasure having all of you here to kind of talk about some things related to, you know, Star Wars, the Republican War, Empire War, you name it. But I'm also, I like most of the other guys out there that are also fans. I look forward to seeing like what's to come, you know, like we got the new version coming soon. Can't wait to make videos on that. That's going to be a blast. Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm happy that you guys are back. Like that's the one key thing. I'm happy that all of you are back and actually doing this again.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, reaching out to RISSIEN, like I saw RISSIEN just pop up, and I think he messaged me like to make sure it was really me.
I was like, I heard Z's back.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, dude, you have to come back. Like, you have to come work with us again. And Jay, it's been like that with several people. Like, you know, Sidious Invader just came into the Discord one day and he's like, Z? He's like, are you like,
you're back?
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, and now he's decided to like join back the team as well. I mean, and so now, I mean, really, we're only missing one guy. That's it. One guy who I have reached out to. I mean, I don't know what happened to the guy, but maybe he'll respond. But that, I mean, we've got everybody back. Everybody. So, this is nuts. Like, it's, I'm humbled. Let's just say that, right?
Yeah,
I
you're
think
humble.
I think this is the closest we've ever been to literally having everyone that's ever worked on it.
Yes.
At one point or another back at the same time.
That's insane.
There's two people that will not be joining because they are on another team, right? But everybody that's ever touched this thing is now back, except for one guy who's just MIA. Like I said, I hopefully hear back from him, and then the two that are on another team. But yeah, that's those numbers, Jay, right? And we were talking about massive distances of time here. So again, I'm humbled. I really am. I've said it before, but I am. And all the new guys that have come on that have taken up the mantle, so to speak, of the project, and they're doing some heavy lifting. These are all phenomenal people, you know, they really are. I can't tout them enough, right? We have some extremely talented, very smart people working on this, and I am humbled.
Well, I have to plug Zero here because like I mean he's been the one that's been doing the reaching out and actually like getting people involved. I mean, like, I remember when you contacted me, Zero, it was like you would not take no for an answer. Like you were going to find a way to bring me back one way or another, and I was like, I fine, I'll negotiate with you. But anyway, like we worked it all out and everything. So, but I mean, it's good to be back. But no, I mean, Zero's been the one that's just been like, no, we need people, we need these people back. Like these are the right people for the job. So
Yeah,
it's really his efforts that have been like bringing people back.
If
Wait,
they
Zero-
cared about it long ago, right? I mean, these are people that put in a lot of time and effort long ago, right, into something that wasn't theirs. I mean, you have to understand, way back, this was my project, right? I mean, it had my name on it, right? And I know it said Republic at War, but even on even our splash screen said a mod by Z3R0X, right? It said that. So when people began joining the team and like helping out, it always kind of like humbled me a little bit. It was like, wow, like, this is my project and they want to help because they care. And then over time, it became less of my project and more of their project. And I actually like that, right? Like seeing people putting their own stamp on it, right? And everyone that's touched this has had their own stamp. And by the way, Jay, going like bugging Arvis, it was more of like just constantly annoying him with like little comments. Like he'd say something like, oh, I can't wait to do this. And I'm like, I can't wait when you finally decide to join the mod team again. Or he'd show me a picture of a model and I'm like, oh my God, is this for our mod? And he's like, no. And I'm like, I think
But why not?
Yeah, I did that.
Why not? Can we add it?
And then finally it just got down to like, all right, dude, I've got, you're wearing me out. I've got nothing. Okay, let's make it work. So, and that's just, I mean, look, Anakin was like, dude, we have to get Arvis back. I'm like, I agree.
And here we are now, and everything's just kind of worked out like how it should be. Nature's reset, pretty much.
I mean, I went to him right away, and he's told me no. He was like, yeah, no. Like but it wasn't a hard no, right? It was like one of those, like, kind of like, no, I'm good.
It was more my concern about like I didn't really know if I could. I not necessarily dedicate myself to it, but more just like, being able to like have the time and everything to really put into it. And now that I'm like reaching the end of my military career and I'm getting ready to retire, it's more like, okay, you know what? I'll say yes because I have that time coming. So
You mentioned that to Jay already feels young, right? And you just said retire.
I'm 27.
If I'd stayed in the military, I'd be 3 years from retirement.
Wow.
I am 2 years from retirement, but I'm already retirement eligible. So if that tells you how old I am.
Jay's like, he's like, you fucking boomers.
Hey, you guys are boomers.
Not. I'm a millennial.
You're getting there.
Elder millennial.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Elderman.
we are gonna wrap it up here because it is. I do have to get to editing this in a little bit, so we are gonna wrap it up here. If you guys are perfectly okay with that,
We are.
And again, like I said, it's just been a pleasure having you guys aboard. And Zero, you're my co-host, so you're always going to be here pretty much.
I am never able to tell that damn story. Are you ever going to let me tell that story?
No, we're never going to tell that story. We're going to leave it out. But all right, thank you for watching, everybody. That story is going to be left in the archives forever and always, more than likely.
Please look forward to it.
We'll see. We'll see one day. We'll work out the kinks of how we're going to do that.
Can we tell a fictional version of it?
Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed this podcast, again, for one, shout out to Arvis and RISSIEN for even coming aboard. It's, this late into the day anyway. It is 10:40. I appreciate you guys for staying up this late just to even be a part of this. Very appreciated on my end, personally. And guys, to the people that are going to watch this, if you're not in the Republic at War Discord already, I will leave a link for that in the description below. And just know that everybody appreciates the support. I appreciate the support for this podcast. Everybody appreciates the support for the mod. And go join their Discord and chat it up with everybody. Any closing thoughts, guys? Like actual closing thoughts?
We share pictures.
Oh, I will. I have it timestamped exactly where we started talking about it. So yeah, I'll make sure they're in the video.
We shared pictures. We share pictures in our Discord too.
Yes.
True.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you were talking about the new.
No, we.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, no, we share lots of pictures, right? And there's lively debates daily, right? Lively discussions, Jay. And you're free to jump in. I strongly recommend anyone, if you haven't dropped by, to drop by. So and we are growing, by the way. The server's growing, so that's good too. So the more people, the merrier.
More people, the merrier. And that's where we're going to end today's episode, guys. Again, thank you for coming aboard. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to leave a like on it and sub to the channel for more gaming content. We're going to be doing more of these, obviously, over time. I was out of state for almost 2 months, basically back to back. I was in Boston in February, and I was in Arlington in last week, literally. So I've just been busy. Haven't had a lot of time to sit down and actually record this. Z3R0X has been trying to get me in the studio to actually record this. That's all on me. Yeah, we'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you for watching, and
I was worried about
see you later.
I was worried about you. I actually reached out concerned.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, man. I was in Arlington, Texas at a Call of Duty tournament. All right, forgive me.
I'm like, he's sick. I never heard from him again. What happened?
No, I'm still alive. I promise.
Well,
all right, guys.
You guys
again,
all another time.
Another time, yes.
Mhm.
But all right, guys. Thanks for coming aboard, and to the people watching, we'll see you later. May the force be with you all. Peace.